Disclaimer: the views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent. Listener discretion is advised. Three years ago, I started this show, Caught on the Mic. I made 3 columns of people that I wanted to have on the show based on my different interest groups. And today, I finally get to knock another one off my list. He is from one of my most favorite bands of all time, Yellowcard. Ryan Key joins me on the podcast today. We talk about their new album, A Hopeful Sign, which is a collaboration album with a group called Hammock. We also talk about the simple pleasures of instrumental music and meditating in this chaotic world in which we live in. Ryan Key from Yellowcard joins me on the show today. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Caught on the Mic. So, ladies and gentlemen, when I started this podcast a little over 3 years ago, I made a list and I had 3 columns. I put down all the athletes I wanted to have on the show. I put down the musicians I wanted to have on the show, comedians, you kind of get the point. But in my list of musicians, and being a former musician myself, my next guest was in my top 5 easily.
Oh, wow.
He is in one of my all-time favorite bands. I have wanted to have him on the show for a long time. Ryan Key from Yellowcard. How the heck are you, man?
Very well, dude. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm glad to get you one of your top 5 gets. I mean, that's just what an honor.
I love it. And I got to tell you, man, I have been listening to A Hopeful Sign the past couple of days.
It's very re-listenable, isn't it?
Yes. I want to get into the weeds about that because I think guys our age, we're the same age, we kind of get to this point where we listen to music on a different level. And like, it's weird because when we're younger, we're all about the high energy stuff. But when we get older, like, recovery is just as important as the actual action. And it was a great listen to unwind to at the end of the night, or if I'm just chilling out at home. And I love it. I love it so far.
Yeah, man. I've been down the rabbit hole of instrumental music for a long time. I haven't, music in any form with lyrics has not been really a part of my life for probably a decade more. I got really into Explosions in the Sky.
Nice.
In the late 2000s, and that was my sort of gateway drug into what now has become a very broad palette of everything from post rock to full blown EDM. But something about letting my brain take in the sounds and form its own thoughts and opinions about what I'm listening to and how it applies to my life versus the lyrics of a song applying to my own life or trying to make them apply or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's weird, because I think as a songwriter, something that I'm not a big fan of singing, but I am a big fan of writing. And my voice has just always been, that's probably an interview for another time, but my voice has been a real struggle through the decades to keep afloat. And it's really hard for me to, or it used to be a lot harder than it is now because I'm not young and dumb and I take better care of myself and I've learned how to protect my voice better. But that said, writing melody has always been something that I just love to do. And I feel like is something that's helped Yellowcard songs succeed the way they have is this sense of melody that I don't even know where I got it from, but it seems like it works some of the time. And that all comes from listening to other vocalists growing up and pop songs and pop rock songs and all the music I grew up on. But there was just this shift at some point in my life, and my dream in life now is to make instrumental music. I mean, outside of Yellowcard, 20 years from now, I hope I'm scoring films. I mean, that's like everything I'm trying to do behind the scenes. When you don't see me in Yellowcard, I'm spending all of my time trying to get some form of a scoring career off the ground, and it's a very uphill battle. But I'm not given up. And I think my decade plus of exposure to instrumental music in so many different forms has really ignited the sort of the flame to want to do that, in my own way. So working with Hammock, it's people listen to the record, and I see a very common thread of comments saying, this is the album I didn't know I needed until I heard it. Well, this is like a dream I didn't know I had until it was happening. I never would have thought, okay, I'm gonna make a record with Hammock. That's just that wasn't in my 3 columns of stuff, like yours.
Right.
And so it's just such an unexpected and outside of the box collaboration. And at some point early in the production of the record, when it first came to be, it was going to just be a solo William Ryan Key and Hammock, because there was no Yellowcard, nor was there ever to be Yellowcard again. And a year or so after we were I was working with Hammock on just a few songs. We were going to do 3 or 4 songs and put them out as an EP or something. Yellowcard all of a sudden was stepping into this incredible chapter that was also so unexpected. And so I went back to Mark and I said, hey man, I don't know if you guys would be down to do this, like really do this, but Yellowcard, it's happening. And like, I think this could be really cool. So I sent him 9 songs. He said, we'll try to get to 5 or 6, a couple more than we were going to do with you. And then they just did all 9 and sent them to it, like sent the rough mixes. They were like, here, we just decided to keep going. And we did all 9 songs.
That's awesome.
So we ended up getting a full length out of it, which is so huge because we don't have a full length out right now. It's a really, really cool release for us in this time in between tours. And, like it's just such a cool, perfect time for this to come out, I think. And so they sent me the music and I went to the guys in the band and I was like, hey, I've been working on this thing for a while and it's going to be hands off, because the band, all I did was send them a piano and a vocal.
Right.
And I told them to do whatever they wanted, change the chord progression, do the chorus 17 times, whatever. I don't care. Just do what you are inspired to do. And so that was also a really cool moment for me to be able to go to the other 3 guys in the band and be like, hey, I have this thing. And especially cool for Josh, our bassist, who is the reason I got into Hammock. He's my best friend in the world. And he was trying to get me into them for so long. And it took a while. I don't know why. It didn't stick the first couple times I listened to their records, but then obviously they became a huge, huge part of my musical palette. So to go to Josh and be like, hey dude, your band is it's gonna say Yellowcard Hammock on the album cover. It's just, his brain was melting. So yeah, it's all that to say, this record is really unique and interesting to me because it fits in with that sentiment of wanting music to mean something different to me now at this age. But it's my own music, so it's surreal to hear your own music played back to you in this new form.
That's a great vantage point, because that was something I was going to ask you about. Yellowcard has had a few different hiatuses, like 2008 to 2010, 2017 to 2023. In the midst of all of this, we've had a global pandemic.
Yep.
Just a little over a month ago, you became a father. So
what a time to be alive.
Right. But it's one of those things where I'm sure that has probably informed your vantage point about music in different ways as well. Because we all have seasons of life where we're not the same person that we were 3 years ago, let alone 5 years ago, let alone 10 years ago.
I've been on a journey for a long time now to sort of try to figure out, who I am now, and why I was who I was then, kind of, if that makes sense,
Totally.
I didn't have the best reputation early in our career. I now know, in doing the work, that I was constantly just overwhelmed with stress and anxiety. And it really led me to make a lot of really shitty decisions and have a really shitty attitude a lot of the time. And I forgive myself for it now, because I can really break down the reasons, the relationships in my life at that time, the pressure we were under in ways we never could have imagined, things that, were out of my control. And I did not have the tools or the knowledge to understand the emotions and sort of the effect it was having on my mental health. And um, and at that time, unfortunately, I don't think I had anyone in my life that was sort of willing to put me on, put my feet back on the ground in any kind of significant way and say, you need to figure out what's going on with you, because everybody wanted the yellow card machine to keep running,
Right.
and whether it was friends or family or anyone. I mean, I don't blame them. It was a good time to be around yellow card, and so I've done a lot of work on myself to figure out how to avoid falling into that place ever again. I still struggle with really heavy anxiety and stress levels all the time, but I have the tools now to understand when those feelings are creeping in. And all this to say, I think it has had a huge impact on the music that I am drawn to.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's why I love ambient electronica and post rock and like neoclassical electronic driven soundtrack and things like that, because it gives me peace. It gives my brain peace when I listen to that music. I love the Foo Fighters. I love Green Day, but a new Green Day album doesn't make my brain feel peaceful, and that's just not what I need right now in my life.
Totally.
And I think I've just discovered that by accident, that this music is there is a very clear reason why I'm so drawn to instrumental music, and specifically those sort of genres. This record is to hear your own music presented in a format that you never would have expected. Because to me, this is a Hammock album. I mean, I gave them some vocals, but the music is 100% Hammock from the ground up. It's 0% any member of Yellowcard, including myself. It's just that vocal. So, it's just like listening to a new Hammock album, but realizing that it's your songs. It's just surreal, dude. There's no way to describe it, really.
Man, I can relate to all of that so well. I think my de facto thing that I fell back on was like piano jazz and like old school piano jazz, like Bill Evans trio type stuff. And it's the same therapeutic effect. It was like, man, I can only take so much noise. I love all of my hardcore stuff, my metal stuff, everything, my punk stuff, but I have to unplug for me every now and again, and that's what I default to. With this collaboration in your pocket and this mindset that you have now, do you have any other collaborations you're looking forward to doing later on down the line?
I do, actually. I don't know when or if it will come to fruition, but it's something we've been talking about for a while. And I actually really I had a track that I was going to work on, and then my son was on the way and it just didn't pan out. But one of my number one my number one and number two Spotify Wrapped artists go kind of battle for first place every year, but they're the same every year. Mm-hmm. And it's Christian Loeffler, who is a German producer, DJ, whatever you want to, and Olafur Arnalds, who is like an Icelandic neoclassical composer. Used to be a drummer in a metal band, actually, but now he makes wild Icelandic vibe music, And so Christian and I have become buds through, we just connected over social media, and then my wife and I went to see him in Miami at a small club, and we hung out after the show, and we just realized we have a lot, even though our genres are, a million miles apart. We have a lot in common and a lot we love about the same music, and so I'm hoping that he and I are able to connect at some point and work on a track with him. I've been, I've got my toes wet in electronic music. Ryan Mendez, the lead guitarist of Yellowcard, and I have call it a side project. I don't know. We have a thing we like to do and make music under the name Jetta. Mm-hmm. And so that's been a big part of connecting with other electronic artists and stuff through trying to seek out remixes. And we've really gotten to work with some killer artists in that space outside of Yellowcard too. So, I think with Jetta, there's a lot of potential for collaboration in a space that I'm really, curious about and excited about working in electronic music.
Now, I don't want to press our time past what we're allotted here, but I got to ask you, as a podcaster myself, and you are a fellow podcaster with Thank the Maker, past podcast guest, bass player, story of the year, Adam Russell. He and I had a great conversation about it. What have you gained personally and internally from being a podcaster that maybe you couldn't find with music?
I think it's been helpful for sort of the work I kind of mentioned, that I've tried to actively be doing on myself. I think having conversation with friends openly every week, building those relationships. Nick from Bayside and I, we knew each other, but we weren't close. Now I couldn't imagine my life without him in it.
Right.
Same with Mike Forster. He's become our fourth host on the show. He and I would have never met or connected without the podcast. And again, he's become such an important person in my life. And I think it goes beyond that to the guests we have on the show. Just that sense of wanting to be open and kind, and welcoming to people, is so helpful for growth as a person. And the podcast is medicine. I mean, it's like, it helps me.
Yes.
It helps remind me how to connect in a positive way with other people. And the mission behind our podcast to inject positive energy into what can be a very toxic space in the Star Wars fandom. That's also really helpful because it's a conscious choice to stay positive. And you have to make that choice. I mean, I'm sure there are some people who genuinely wake up every day and they don't have to make that choice. They are just pumped on life and it's all good all the time. That I'm sure that exists in the world. But for me, a lot of the time I have to remind myself and I have to make a choice to stay positive. I have to not let the negative side of my personality creep in and take over. And so podcasting has been something that's taught me a lot about making that choice. And it's built some relationships that I'll have with me for the rest of my life.
Absolutely. I love that same exact effect for myself as well. I lead people for my day job that I don't talk about on my podcast, but I always ask people, I'm like, so are you listening to learn or are you listening to respond? Because that is how you become a better person, is when you listen to learn, and you learn so much through this venue of podcasting. Mm-hmm. It is unbelievable. So
it really is, man. We've had some incredible guests on our show. So, some we would, call it like legit Star Wars people, have come on our show everywhere from, comic book editors to Ashley Eckstein, who was the voice of Ahsoka Tano on the Clone Wars for 8 seasons and the film. I mean, she's, a legend, top tier,
right,
all time Star Wars caliber, like highest caliber. And she's become a huge part of my life. My wife and I ended up deciding to elope, but for a while we were planning on doing a small wedding at Disney World, where we are those people. We are Disney adults, like full blown.
Right.
And we were going to do that. And dude, I sat next to Ashley on a plane, which is what led to her being on the podcast and us becoming friends. But that's literally it. We just started chatting on a cross country flight from LA to Orlando. And she was going to officiate our wedding. I mean, it's just, and that's all through the podcast. It's all through this positive energy that I think is, surrounding my life, and the people in my life are giving me that good energy,
I love that. So final question, because I know you probably have another marathon of these to go.
I am not done. This is not the end of the night. All good.
What is your advice for making the world a better place tomorrow than what it is today?
I think I kind of just said it. I mean, make a choice to stay positive, especially in the face of, crippling adversity. That's when it's most important. And there's been so many points in my life where I didn't know that advice yet, or I didn't, but either way, if I had it, I wasn't taking the advice. And it was the people around me that did make that choice that inspired me and helped show me how to better my life. And as you said, hopefully, leave my little place in the world better than I found it.
I love that. Thank you for giving me some time, man. This has been a pleasure. I hope maybe we can reconnect in the future and maybe do a longer one, because This has been a great conversation. Ryan Key, the world's a much better place with you in it, my friend.
Cheers, dude. Same to you.
How awesome was that? The story of how this episode came together is stranger than fiction itself. I would have to tell it offline. I was basically given 20 minutes and I'm like, hell yeah, I will take it. I want to thank Ryan Key for doing the show today. Check out A Hopeful Sign on your favorite streaming platform. The vinyl version of it is pretty dope if you haven't checked it out yet. follow Yellowcard on all social media platforms, but I would guess you probably already are. Make sure you're following Caught on the Mic on all social media platforms and that you visit me, www.caughtonthemic.com. Send me an email, caughtonthemic@gmail.com, and make sure you are giving me a top tier rating on your favorite podcasting platform. This has been Caught on the Mic with Michael Clark. I'm Michael Clark. Until next time, thank you.